So it got done. Gonna call Seth. Reception's bad. Maybe when I go home. You know what? Oh wait, no. I was gonna go talk to this guy. My hand barely touches the key. Okay, cool. He winks at me before continuing. What can I do for you? Anything in particular? Where do I start? I've never been here before. A friend convinced me to come and kinda left me out on the lurch. Well, the usual club crew looking to have a good time in any way possible. The dance floor is usually pretty packed, but most people are looking for someone to connect with. What brought you here? A friend of mine really wanted to come here. I wasn't completely sure I wanted to come along, but he's persuasive. Of course, now I'm here talking with someone I just met. Hey, it comes with the job. That said, we really ever get to know people until we sit down and talk with them. So in the interest of making you feel a little more comfortable, since you know my name, what's yours? Robo. Nice to meet you. What do you do when you're not indulging in chatty bartenders? Usually I hang out with my friends, play video games, generally find fun things to waste time. Nothing as exciting as bartending. Believe me, it's kind of excitement that wears thin after a while. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it, but never mind. Video games, huh? Pretty popular pastime nowadays. What kind do you play? I enjoy RPG things. You really make you think. Tactics are all good and well, but a good solid story any day. I hear lots of stories in my line of work. Some are enjoyable, others not so much. I suppose it depends on the people telling them. Very true. That said, we've got a whole club of potential stories out there. Who knows what you might find? However, your art story ends unless you're attending buying a drink. Sadly, I'm on the clock. Can I get you something? As I slid one of the stools, he sat in the glass. Then I think I'd like a drink. What did you have in mind? Still not sure about the club or its residents. Let's decide on something sensible. Just a ginger ale for now, thanks. Living dangerously. I see. Perhaps designatedly. Just one ginger ale coming up. With a rather surprising flourish, he slid his hand against the glass, rolled up between each finger before catching it by the base. He brought it back up the counter, flipping the glass over while still holding it, and shot a steady stern into it like he was firing a pistol. He released the glass and, drawing his hand back, drew a rag from his cuff and wiped the bar in front of me clean. Your drink. Wow, that was quite the show. Always happy to serve an appreciative customer. Is there anything else I can do for you? Yes. Well, you could start by telling me how you learned to do that. I sipped at the drink. He chuckled and leaned. For drive, determination, months of doing nothing better to do, and for tips to feed my eating and paying habits. He winked at me and stood back up. Anything else I can do for you? Music is getting kind of weird. Yeah, you can tell me about a little more about yourself. That you came here to have fun. Not just chat up with the bartender, not much to tell, honestly. What see is what you get. Seems like desperate, despite he's hesitant to talk about himself. How about I start? It's nice to meet you. Oh yeah. As you're not exactly. Are you busy after work? Flattering as it is, I make it a point not to get involved with customers. Get messy. The look on his face suggested I shouldn't push. I nodded and relented. Well, my lost then. Nice to meet you, Jax. You make a fantastic drink. It's nothing personal. I just get those kind of cracks quite a few times a night. Comes with the job, I guess. Do you need a hand with anything else? I just walked away, man. I'm not... You're cool and all, but, you're just not, Guess I just want to talk to you. Whoa. Okay, well, apparently I suck. Okay. Guess I'll just go home. How do I do that? Back to home. That young feline writer seems interesting. He said he'd be heading to the library today. Maybe I can catch him. Ring ring. Click. Hello. Hi, it's Robo from Amorous. You mentioned I should give you a call today, and since I just rolled out of bed, figured now was a good time to say as any. Robo? Oh, right. The interviewee. I'm glad to hear you called back. I was just, whoops. Okay, I'm okay. I'm just on my way to the library now. It's a great day for a stroll. Whoop! A loud thud on the other side of the phone was followed by some muttering and grunting. Apparently, I distracted him in the middle of something. Was this a bad time to call? It seems like you're having some difficulties there. No, I just had a few books I've been meaning to return before they became overdue. Though sometimes I think the only reason the library stays open is because of the fees I wind up paying. I take it you're fairly an avid reader as well. Definitely. One can't expand one's horizon enough. I'm just about to head on inside. Do you want to drop by and meet me in the lobby? Sure. Let me get reasonably decent and I'll pop right over there. Oh, you never told me when reading was. I hope we didn't miss it. Reading. Oh no, what time is it? Glancing at the clock, I saw it was a little after 10. I mentioned it to Steffi God. Who is? Sorry about that, I get too deep into my head sometimes. Reading is at noon. In the community center, we got plenty of time. Good, well, I got nothing planned this morning. I'll drop by since you're already there. We said our goodbyes as I tried not to flinch every time I had another book dropped on the other end, and I hopped out of bed to get dressed. Despite not needing to rush, I did feel a little concerned about making him wait. I scooped some clean clothes and got as close as presentable. Kobe was stumbling around the kitchen, blurry-eyed and not as I was heading towards the door, as always. And where are you off in a rush? Just meeting someone. I found an interesting guy at the club last night and he invited me into the event. First date, huh? Don't get started, little bro. I heard everything that happened last night when you and your friends got back here. Okay, have fun, but I expect a full report. Promise, we'll dish all about him later. Later's good. Right now I need coffee and a shower. Kobe followed his beak back into the kitchen as I made my way out the front door. I honestly hadn't been to the public library in ages. Between work and Kobe's nightlife, I've been too preoccupied to think about culture, probably why I was curious about this feeling. Not that my friends were dim, far from it, but they were more passionate about surfing and tanning, chasing delve, and discussing the latest popular literature. Last night was all about new things, so I figured this was another tick mark off my newest bucket list. His nerdy look have also had some influence on my choice. True his words, Sav had found us a couple of seats close enough to enjoy the reader, but not in the intimate view. Everyone was getting settled in, and so I managed to make it to my seat with a minimum of fuss. Seth beamed at me before turning his head back to the front of the room. The dew had settled on the lawn just outside the door, glistening in the last few rays of moonlight before the sun crested the horizon. I didn't know what was being read or who the author was, but the play card just outside the room had a few bits of information on it, but nothing that rang a bell. Likely due to my confusion expression. His name is Nick Kovac? Nick Kovac. Why does that sound super familiar? Oh well. If you know the reference, comment down below, because apparently I don't. But it sounds super familiar. Blood was the color of the clouds, and the same unwashed crimson spilled into the revelation across the floor before him. It was a body emptied of life, and life empty of meaning. Light red. What definition word of light are you using? It's general fiction, murder mystery with a little thriller thrown in for spice. He's got away with the words that really capture the imagination. The sound of boots rattling the windows and shaking the shutters, pulling him from his reveries. Too soon they would be upon him, and thereafter he would join the woman he discovered upon the paving stone. It's really hard to not form a mental image. You've read a few of his books? All 14 in his current series. I found him midway through the second, so I got some insights I shouldn't have into the first. It ruined the mystique for me, but I haven't been able to bring myself to try reading them. 14, how many has he written in total? Oh, about 28 or so. He's prolific, sure, but that's what he does well. 2 scatato shots rung out across the barren fields, and pong of heat. Pain radiated from his shoulder. He held secrets best left unspoken. His pursuer meant to silence him forever. You said you were doing some research for your own story. How far along is that? Even in dim light, I could see a frowning creasing the corners of his mouth. He sunk back into his chair for a moment, whispering his response. Honestly, not as well as I had hoped. Writing is a very private vocation, but that makes it even harder when you stare at an empty room and a blank page. I am here in part to be hopefully absorb some of his adamant genius in the hopes of inspiring myself to put pen to paper. So just like at the club, you're here to gain inspiration through osmosis. Somehow you make it sound more desperate than I intended. If you're looking for a sounding board or just some input, I'd be more than happy to help you out with that. Really? I mean, really? His eyes were wide, what I could only assume with excitement as I nodded. Intelligent and interesting, why not take some time to help him out? Even put me in the forward. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. Why don't we go and grab some lunch after this? My treat. It'll give us some time to chat above a whisper. Sounds good. I didn't have a chance to grab anything before I headed out the door. His grin was infectious. I couldn't help but smile before he turned his back, settled into a seat. He was really excited at the prospect of who knew it would be that easy to get a lunch out of him. Far worse than the iron bars and rain-sickening concrete of the shell was the knowledgeable that escape would be impossible. Beyond those walls, he was a haunted man. Only with their icy embrace could he hope to live another day. Seth judged me as an applause rolled through the room. I guess I hadn't been paying as much attention as I thought. The two of us made our way through the crowd and back to the lobby. It was then that I noticed a small wooden tub with a pile of books on it. Seth was busy chatting with some other attendees, so I took a place to sit by. He finally stepped away and he made a beeline for me. Alright, there's a nice little coffee shop down the road. I got a couple of books to grab and before we go, so I can meet you there and you can wait for me. Apparently Seth hadn't noticed the dining table or the author heading in that direction. He did mention enjoying his books. Why don't I just wait? I'll see you back there in a sec. Excellent, I'll be just a moment. Seth wandered off to circulation while I maneuvered into the table. Thanks for coming, it's always nice to see a good turnout. You're welcome. First time I've been to a reading. I don't get much as I should. Then double thanks. It's hard to complete with everything else out there to do. What can I do you for? My friend is a big fan of yours. Could I get a signed copy of your latest book for him? Sure, it's part of the reason I'm here. Did you have something in mind for me to write? Anything you want to write would be great. He's read every one of your books in the second series, and I thought it would be a nice present for him. Very thoughtful, and I certainly can't leave a big fan as that something memorable. He jotted down a Farbros. Thank you, Seth, for continuing patronage and signed it with a flourish. I tucked the book into my coat, and he kept it secret. Thanking him. Thanks again for coming. I've got another reading later on the month. Hope to see you and your friends there. I'll mention it to him. Thanks again. Back. Hopefully I didn't keep you waiting too long. Not at all. Shall we get going? Seth nodded and the two of us ducked out the front door into the streets. I had to juggle the books a little to keep it secret. But Seth was so engrossed in the talking about the reading, it wasn't too difficult. The coffee shop was a nice little place, cozy, inviting. We settled to the table after grabbing a coffee each and a scone. I barely had time to take the first bite when Seth produced a number of notebooks. My writing's a little scattered. I tend to just grab what I have. I jot my thoughts down. My writings are a little scattered. I tend to just grab what I have handy to jot my thoughts down. What are you trying to write? Well, it seems to me the first thing you would be to get organized. You got a bunch of bits and pieces, but have you considered what to do with them? I was thinking of maybe something involving the main, but I could also bring in a... That sounds like a no. I just don't have my thoughts together. It's not as simple as, There has to be some... Seth, no, it's okay. No, it doesn't mean there isn't something to work with. It just means you don't yet have a direction. Wasn't the reason you wanted to do this? You're right. Sorry, it's easy to get lost in my head, I suppose. Writing seems to be very important to you. What got you started? Reading, mostly. I've been a little bookish, and I enjoyed some of my time in other people's worlds that I wanted to make some of my own. I assume you aren't just a writer since you're still working on a book. What else do you do in your free time? I'm not terribly fond of talking about it. It's just because it's embarrassing. Well, now you have to tell me. a trust fund kid. My parents have been fairly well off financially, and they set aside a sizable sum for me when I got older. That would explain why you're able to live in town. I was sort of brought along to the city with a remarriage when I was younger, and I've been pretty fortunate in that regard. Not to be too forward, but you don't seem terribly happy being idle. My work's been eating up quite a bit of my free time, so that obligation vanished. I kind of just lost. I'm glad my brother got me out of the house at least. He sounds like an equally interesting person in a different way, I suppose. He's a character, but I love him. We went on for a bit longer, chatting about this and that until my coffee was gone. We turned our attention to the piles of notes. I got an idea. You're right. That I spend a little too much time on my own head. Maybe what I need is some structure. Sounds good. What did you have in mind then? Since I can't seem to settle on something, why don't you tell me what I should write? Really? With all your talk of muse and inspiration, I think of it as exercise. You'll get me a framework to build from. I write the story. It'll give me a focus and keep me from wandering. Alright, I suppose that makes some sense. Why me though? Because that's why we both have some investment in the final piece. That will make it all more likely that you'll keep humoring me. Fair enough. Where should we start? At the beginning. What kind of genre should I write? I like a good scare, something that I can really get the adrenaline pumping. How about horror? It's a popular genre to be sure. It does give you quite a few options to have fun with some characters and the reader. I'm game. Okay, how do you see the main character? Is there something defining features you like? I like complex, multi-phase characters, people who mess up but have to keep going. Something about the struggle just to get by resonates with me. My favorite kind. Nothing like being able to explore shortcomings through that lens. Having someone for whom they are only gray options. No black or white. I'm getting some great ideas here. I told you, you make an excellent muse. Glad I could help. That said, I got a question for you this time. Oh? Suddenly, the interviewer becomes the interviewee. My, how the tables have turned. It's quite the plot twist. Anyways, I was wondering, what do you plan on doing with this story after you're done? I haven't really considered it. It probably is something I shouldn't even worry about until it's written. I think you should keep it in mind. Ponder it. I also think that you should keep those notebooks away. Let the story build itself. You'll be less inclined to overwhelm yourself. Fair enough. But I reserve the right to call you the instant it's done. I'll need your eyes on it as soon as it's out of the printer. It's a deal. Looking at the clock, I noticed we've spent quite a while chatting back and forth despite not having a set schedule of my own. Figured stuff may have other places to go. Well, it's afternoon already and I don't want to keep you. I mean, if you're busy. I should get to that. The fresher the ideas in my head, the more likely I'll actually be able to keep with it. He smiled at me for a moment before we both gleamed, clearing the table, standing up in our chairs. Thanks again for this. It's the most motivated I've been in quite a while. It was good to spend time with you. Same here. You're a very interesting person to be around. It's a nice change of place. Only interesting? not at all. You are extremely adorable, sweet when you aren't wrapped in your own thoughts. I'll still take the compliment, thanks. I got my number right. Give me a call if you have any questions or if you'd like to chat. I think so. You called me, right? Let me just write it down so you don't lose it. Scribbled it down for it and put it in his pocket, smiling happily at the offer. He checked his notebook as here one last time. I will make an apple, but hopefully not burdensome. Use of your opinion. Thank you. Oh, I almost forgot. I got this for you. I know how you like that offer, and I thought it was a nice gift. When I handled his eyes went wide, a smile spread across his face in an instant, and he looked back at me, beaming. You got a signed copy? I didn't even realize he was doing signings. This is the best thing ever. God. Before I could react, he leapt up against me, wrapping his arms around me, pressing his lips in mine. We both began to blush. After the moment of acceleration began to fade, he quickly pulled away and glanced down towards the floor. Sorry, I didn't mean. It's okay. I'm glad you're excited. I leaned forward and gave him a peck on the cheek, watching his flutter even redder and just keeping that smile wide. Well, I need to get going. Got to keep the story fresh. We said our goodbyes, parting after a final lingering hug. As I watched him leave, I felt a sense of happiness I hadn't experienced in the past few weeks. Writing us was a very important thing to him, and in the span of a cup of coffee cake, wanted me to be a part of that. I hadn't been that important of a person to anyone but Kobe recently. Work had kept me busy, but without that, I began to realize that I wanted something more. Maybe this could be something. Either way, I need to be ready for some juicy gossip when I got home. Testing the waters. Alright, well, what's up, Seth? I'm just gonna call you right now. I knew that focusing on his writing was going to eat up Seth's time, but it seemed like forever since I saw him. No phone calls, no texts, nothing. It was enough to make me wonder if I hadn't been just confused about the signals. I thought we had a connection. He was certainly interested in me, but this was undetermined, the whole idea. Why else would he just leave me hanging? Maybe he just really didn't want temporary company. Kobe was there for me, and we went to the club a couple of nights to see if Seth shone back up there. Sadly, there was no signs of him. Eventually, giving up and just slumped on the couch. I lost myself in the daytime. I wasn't normally like this, but putting myself out there only to wind up with nothing, it was hard thing to just bounce back from. I knew I'd eventually have to pick myself back up. For now, it felt comfortable just to wallow. Kobe was in the shower, and I just finished watching the 5th rerun in a row. There was a knock at the front door. My instinct was to ignore it. I couldn't think of anybody's. Second knock got me off the couch, and I stumbled towards. I half expected to be some local group of fundraising at this point. I was feeling low enough to be wolfing down a box of cookies. Robo, I'm glad I was at the right house. Seth, what the heck are you doing here? How did you even know where I lived? Why didn't you call? Well, the not calling was due to me being scatterbrained. When we parted ways, my head was buzzing with a million ideas, and to get them out before they drove me crazy. One of those ideas involved losing my number. Indirectly, yes. Tossed my pants in the wash, and before I went to bed, like I normally do, I had forgotten your number was in my pocket, so I started the machine in the morning, and by the time I realized my mistake, all that remained was a soggy lump of paper. I do this all the time. Like, all the time. And my phone breaks. Like, every 9 months to every year. Whether it's just too hot, or getting almost hit by a car and it falling on the concrete, or something. Like, something happens. I don't know what happens, but something happens within a year and a half, and I just lose everyone's number, and I just hope that if they're interested or wanting to, continue to stay in contact, that they message me back. So yeah. And I do this paper thing in the pants and knives, anything. Though I'm getting better at checking my stuff, my pockets. Okay, but first, why didn't you stop by the club or anything? I checked a couple of times and didn't see you. I was closeted in my apartment, subsisting on the delivery food and coffee. In retrospect, I could have been there. Something strange out of a novel I read. It was intense. It just kept pouring out of me. I never thought it was like that. It came of you. Still haven't explained how you found my address. I mean, I'm a little upset you didn't call, but not about this. I think it's just weird. That? Oh. I could write a whole story about it. It was just me. I found him for you. Kobe? What? Kobe! Thanks again, you're a lifesaver. Last night I overheard him at the bar asking about you. You mentioned that you've been seeing. You called me cute? Anyways, I mentioned I was your brother. We got to talking for a bit, and I told him how down in the dumps you were lately. I felt terribly about that, and I was a little flattered that you were pinning for me. My cheeks began to flush red as I stumbled out of the fence. I wasn't pinning, I was just sad since I hadn't heard from you for so long. I told him that he should drop by today and catch up back with you. Maybe get you off the couch for a while. And here I am, groveling on my bended knee. I can't tell you how amazing our first time was together. I want to think I'd just leave you at that. First time? First time doing what, huh? Both me and Zeph, profusely as Scobie began to laugh. You two are way too easy to embarrass. I think I'm liking the idea. Kobe, how about you go make some coffee for all of us? I need to talk. Alright. I know when I'm no longer needed. You were right about him. He's quite the character. He's my brother. We have always been there for each other, and he gets a little nosy about my personal life sometimes. However, it's good to have someone who cares about you. You still haven't told me what you've kept locked up by yourself for so long. It wasn't something bad, was it? Bad? Not in the least. Without another word, he turned away and began digging through his book bag. A moment later, he handed me a pile of papers, neatly corrugated and held together with a binder pen. My arm almost sagged at the weight. There it is. All thanks to you, your brilliant inspiration techniques. What is this? I'm still not getting it. It's the story we talked about. I sat down and wrote it, began to end. It's true, it's been a while, and there was nearly a ram of papers I was holding, and the amount of work time was suggesting would have been mind-boggling, and nevertheless, there it was, a title page and thousands of words that followed. When you suggested I gave you an idea to write, I didn't expect it would completely consume you. I know, I'd never been this driven before. Maybe it was your encouragement or your practicality. I just know that when I got home, I was focused like I never had been before. Honestly, I didn't know what to make of it. I had mostly thought it was just some playful game, like his interview. A pile of papers in my hand suggested otherwise. I want you to read it. Not this very second, of course, but go through the full thing. And don't worry, no more radio silence from me. Kobe insisted on wanting me program your number into my phone, and I won't be losing that anytime soon. Until a year later. Dun dun dun. Okay. Nothing against you, what you accomplished is monumental, but that would be way too much to read in one sitting. Again, with the practicality, still I have even less room to complain than before. I've never been able to sit down and write like that. That said, I'm happy to see you, that I'm not kicking you out. Do you like some brunch or something? I'm sure you could use some home-cooked food after all that takeout. I was happy to catch up with Seth, even with Kobe listening intently. We had some pancakes, light conversation, and once Kobe had gotten a few pages of Seth's work pile, he insisted we sat down and read the whole thing. It was astounding that the decisive tone was gone. There was confidence to it I hadn't seen in the snippets he shared with me. I began to feel awkward for having such a profound effect in such little time. Eventually, once the dishes were cleared, we got to chatting more about than just writing. Is it wise to invite me into your bedroom so soon? Did you have an alternative motive I was unaware of? Well, no, I mean, none that I would act on, I mean. I get the feeling that there is something you want to tell me. It isn't about the writing, don't get me wrong. You've been an amazing inspiration. I just wanted to know if there was something more. Something more? Like, I mean, I'm attracted to you. You're attracted. There, I said it. Wow, it feels so good to get off my chest. And it's not too bad to hear either. I admit, I'm just baffled. Did you think I was for your writing and nature? I suppose not. On some deeper level, I got my signals crossed before, and it's not important. It's more important that we are on the same page and that I gave you a proper date next time. Look forward to it. Not that I don't enjoy our conversations, but it's nice to be wined and dined as well. Something romantic or intimate would be great. It's a date, or it will be. I'll just need some time to plan. I'm not particularly well advised at this sort of thing. Fair enough. But don't leave me hanging like that again. I can only take so much before I hunt you down and force you to buy me some chocolates. You say that like it's a bad thing. Still, we don't need to wait to have a good time. Unemployment is still looming large over me, and you seem pretty free today. Is there something you would like to do? This is pretty nice, no? It looks so adorable. It's pretty strange that we're flushed. I leaned over to ruffle his ears. Just so you stay cooped in someone else's bedroom. Not just someone's, yours specifically. Flattered, there's far more places to be than here though, practically since my brother leaves. Things lying around. It's very well lived in. Not something I can usually say about my place. You know, I never got to see your place. I imagine it's quite nice. It's servable, but Spartan. I'm afraid I'm not terribly good at the side of things. No time to decorate. Do you not like furniture, or is it glamorous life of writing simply eating up all your time? Well, the last few nights it was certainly eating up all my time, but no, it's just an area where I don't really expend the effort. A home can be very transitory. I suppose I'm not really attached to my apartment. I can understand that a little. When I was looking at pictures of my parents, seeing the pictures of Kobe when I was younger, I used to make me feel disconnected. Step family and all, you know. I can see that being difficult. For me, my family, it was just different drives. My father liked to work and my mother liked to be a mother. It worked out well for them. But when I decided to get my degree in English, well, there were discussions. As the two of us, we got to chatting. It made me realize how little we really knew about each other. Seth was happy to share. Brought some things of my own that I hadn't thought about in some time. I know it sounds cliche, but being the only child, having expectations pile on you can be hard in its own way. Some part of me thinks that I'll never be anything but a disappointing footnote for my parents. Well, that's not a healthy line of thought. Parents can be more forgiving than you think. Mine trust me to keep Kobe in line, but he also keeps me from saying sad for too long. They knew they were a good fit when we all started living together. Maybe you just haven't given your years enough time to come to terms with choices. Maybe so. I suppose if I'm not great at reading people, I may have been good at reading them. goodness knows, once college started, I all but vanished from their lives. If I may, you seem to get lost in your own head. You can't have experienced everything yet. You can't expect to know everyone else either. Well, before we get too deep into our depressive pit, I think we should change the subject. Fair enough. Did you give any thought to getting your stuff published? I thought you might have forgotten about that suggestion. No, I haven't been looking to places to publish. Well, why not? This is particularly some of your best work. You need to at least yourself out there and give it a try. I don't even know where to begin. This is the first substantial piece I've written since I graduated. I don't even know if it's any good. If you're concerned about getting picked, why not just self-publish? I hear it's super easy now. It is, but it's also flooded with everyone else who wants to be a writer. You'd be fighting against hundreds, if not thousands of people without much to make me stand out. Believe me, your writing stands out, Kobe, the least bookish person I know, and couldn't put it down. Thanks, but even if it's good, I'd be buried in a sea of other books. It'd help if some visibility could boost it or plug it, which backs me to square one. I couldn't bear to see him giving up so soon after accomplishing so much. For a while, glancing at the manuscript and back at each other until I remembered. What about the author we saw? Nick? We could talk to him. It was mentioning that he had another reading sometime soon. You gotta be kidding. I mean, he probably gets swarmed with fans wanting him to proofread their stories. Why would he give me the time of day? Because it's a start? Just like with writing, you gotta take chances and put words down on a blank page. Words he'll say no. I'll buy another copy of his book so he doesn't reject us. Us? Coming with me? Of course. I got inspired enough to write all that, and the least I can do is be there for you, trying to help you make something of it. His eyes went wide for a moment, lips trembling cute as he stared at me. In that moment, he was hugging me tightly and buried his face into my neck. I took a moment, and the rather awkward rush of blood through my body before he slipped off me, seemingly to realize that he practically tackled me on. Then let's do this. Come, hell or high water. I'm going to see my name in print. I smiled broadly. He seemed mostly in himself when he was excited. I was growing to enjoy that about him more and more. And we'll see how this goes next time. I'm not even gonna read it. Next time.